Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlot Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, who I wish would only wear sandals and have a sword. I don't know. I'm trying to do a sword and sandals joke.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about not Standard Extra. We're here to talk about Gladiator II. I got so washed up my bit that I have totally forgot your name.
Often happens.
We're here to talk about Gladiator II, the long-awaited sequel to Gladiator, Best Picture winning film from the year 2000. Directed by Ridley Scott, once again back in the saddle, and we're here to give you our thoughts on it. But if you have thoughts on this movie, as I hope you do, you can join our Discord to talk to us about it mano y mano. Or you can leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to our channel to see more movie reviews in the future. Tanner, you're a fan of Gladiator. You're a fan of Ridley Scott specifically. You've been watching a lot of his movies this year, leading up to this sort of culminating moment that is like he's returning. He's going back to his roots. Gladiator II,
the first sequel Ridley Scott has ever made.
Ever done. How do you feel about Gladiator II?
Tucker, I really liked Gladiator II. You say that I'm a fan of Gladiator, and that's true to an extent, though I'm not like as high on it as many are, because I'm going to say, Tucker, that Gladiator II better than Gladiator. Yeah. Not a take that I think is going to be circulated or held by many, but I'm going to be the Roman bannerman of that take. Because I think this is a very good movie. I think that there's lots to be said about like Paul Mescal and how he sort of follows in the lineage of like the 2000s leading man titan that was Russell Crowe. But I think a lot of the story structure, a lot of the thematics are well built upon in Gladiator 2, and perhaps more interesting than what they were in the first film. And I mean, we'll talk about Denzel, but he is on fire in this movie, as is Ridley Scott. Still got a lot of his big bombastic epic tendencies are showing through here in Gladiator 2. But Tucker, what did you think?
Also loved it. I think it's a great movie, and I think what it really just shows is that Ridley Scott, everyone's been like, okay, he can direct spectacle, he can direct some historically accurate set pieces, he can craft a world and craft a shot, but the last few movies of his, people have been pretty down on, considering the sort of character work and the character arcs, and be like, okay, the production design's good, and that's kind of really all he's been lauded for recently, but I'm not really bought into this. He's kind of lost his sauce. But I think that Gladiator 2 is a stronger return to form in my eyes, because I do think that this movie narratively feels surprisingly focused. I mean, this is a movie about an ensemble cast. There's a lot of moving pieces, but to me, I was watching this and I'm like, there's just the right amount of moving pieces. Like you got this person here and this person there, and I think it's because each of the characters is relatively simple. Like, they fall into their roles pretty clearly, but it all had just enough intrigue, just enough simplicity that it balanced out and felt focused to me. And that is on top of just rock solid craft and great performances and great cinematography and great production design. And all of those technical things, I'm like, okay, I expect this out of Ridley Scott, but I was very pleasantly surprised to be intrigued and engaged by the narrative, by the characters, by the political intrigue, by the themes that it was positing. And I'm like, I come out the other end, I'm like, damn, that's a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, what really got to me was the story the structure of this. What Ridley Scott is trying to say about Roman society, aka what else could it be pointing the finger to with his with his portrait of like unfit leaders who are leading who are sat too heavily on the dominance of their empire and are not really caring about the well-being of the people, and so they are usurped by perhaps a man who is more ambitious, but has some ulterior motives of his own, and has what's the word I'm looking for here? He has a bone to pick with the powers that be, and flipping the power structure. And then against all of this, you have a complete outsider who is spurned by the empire and has to fix his sights on perhaps the wrong target at first. I just think that it's a really, really compelling idea to bring back Gladiator as a film format.
Yeah. So, and people might say And fairly or unfairly, this movie does feel like it's retreading some elements of that first film. That there are sort of like, some Solo-esque, like, oh, look at the, like, it's got a God of War 2018, look, we're doing the, like, Chains of Olympus thing again.
Well,
like,
yes.
But that doesn't really matter to me because as a legacy sequel, which this is, it is continuing the storyline of that first film 24 years later. I think this is a good place to start because start for this genre, because this genre of historical epics in this way has been basically gone for almost this entire century.
What is the last sword and sandals movie?
I kept having that phrase go through my head the whole movie, like, sword and sandals, because that used to be in the like 40s, 50s, and 60s something that was prominent enough in the studio system that was a pillar of filmmaking. You have your Western movies, you have your crime movies, you have your romance, your musicals, and you have your sword and sandal movies. And I mean, those are just gone.
2016 Ben-Hur.
You stole words right from my mouth. But obviously, who the fuck cares about that movie?
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see that genre come back. Diversification in genre in the blockbuster film space, especially one that seems like people are enjoying and going to see, is always a good thing. And also, it's just really well made. I mean, this isn't just like a half-assed attempt. He's back at it like a bad habit, and this habit is terrible, bruh.
So, very good. To sort of assuage the fretting about like, oh, Ridley Scott's just retreading the same story beats as Gladiator. Not really. I mean, it is literally about a guy who gets taken into sort of slavery and has to fight his way up through the ranks and become a famous gladiator. But that's maybe as far as it goes in terms of similarity. I mean, the first film is about a guy who is betrayed by like the powers that be, and so has to defeat Commodus Joaquin Phoenix's character and like reclaim avenge his wife and child, essentially. Yeah. This is a complete outsider. I mean, how spoilery do we want to get?
I think we should go into it because I think the narrative of Hano, the main character played by Paul Mescal, is core enough to all the themes of this movie to where we can't just dance around it.
So he is the son of
Maximus.
What'd you say?
Maximus.
Yeah, well, is he or isn't he is kind of the thing. Did like Lucilla sleep with Maximus and he is their son, or is he the son of Lucilla and Joaquin Phoenix? Is kind of the question.
Where was that indicated? I didn't pick up at that.
They say that in the movie. Is that is one of the old sort of senators is like, some say that he's the product of Lucilla and her brother Commodus. He had some other persuasions as well. But also heavily implied, as it is in the first film, that Lucius is the son of Lucilla and Maximus, though never really made text in that movie or this one. But he is.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you mentioned this offhanded comment from one of the senators, but like, literally everything else in the movie is them talking about how
he is Maximus' son. At the very least, like following in the lineage of Maximus as like a great holder of honor in Roman society. Yeah. Like one of the very few guys who upholds morals and fights for what he truly believes in, not just chasing the dollar or the denarii, as I guess it would be in this world, huh? But no, he is the son of Lucius. He was sent away to the colonies in Africa to live out his days. Has a wife who was dispatched with very quickly at the beginning of the movie.
God, I clocked her death frame 1.
Yeah.
Frame 1, I see this woman show up, I'm like, she's gonna fucking die.
And so that is his motivation. He's like, I'm gonna kill General Acacius, Pedro Pascal's character, and I'm gonna get back at him for giving the order to kill my wife. Yeah. And to do so, he makes a deal with Denzel Washington. He's like, hey, listen, if you fight for me, I'll get you anything you want. He's like, I want the head of General Acacius.
He's like, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, do we want to talk about Paul Mescal as Lucius / Hino?
Sure. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people sort of disparaging this performance, saying that like, oh, the movie is all about how he has this fiery revenge burning in his belly and behind his eyes, and how he's so dead set, and like I didn't see that in his performance, and I have to wholeheartedly disagree. I mean, that's kind of that's like the number one thing with a bullet that I got from his performance was this intensity for being dead set on this goal, the hatred that is fueling his performance for a lot of this, and then how that turns a corner when he is face to face with Acacius in the ring and sort of has to reorient himself, sort of restructure himself. It's like, well, who am I really fighting against? Who is the real enemy here? Paul Mescal is obviously well regarded as a very good actor, and I've seen people trying to like backhandedly say that about him. He's like, well, he's a good actor, of course, but this movie really shows the difference between a great actor and a movie star. And I just can't condone those comments. I'm like, he is a magnetic presence, whether he is in like an independent drama or a $150 million blockbuster. I don't think you can really. Obviously, there is perhaps there's a difference between those two roles that an actor can portray, but I think that he does a very good job in the movie star sort of structure, the sandals that he has to fill here.
Yeah, I think he's very good. I've got no specific complaints about his performance. I think that my issue with the character comes more to the script that he's given. Because he's a very quiet guy. He doesn't say very much. He has these moments where he's waxing poetic, or he's saying specific things that are like, this is the theme of the movie and he believes in this. And he kind of oscillates between either not saying anything and everyone's kind of like talking around him, or he's like commanding the guys around him, or he's like delivering lines of poetry. And I didn't see a lot of middle ground there where I would have found more connection to him on a personal level. But I understand, to me, he's a catalyst. I find every other character thematically and politically around him much more compelling. And he's certainly not a weak performance, and I think that he has the physicality. I think he does the flippy dippy sword shit really well.
Yes.
But in terms of the character, I was like, I can take or leave him. But Paul Mescal does what he's given with the script, which is mostly a physical performance. And I think he does the physical performance very well.
Yeah, he looks the part for sure and acts the part physically. I mean, when I think of these moments where his like physicality is on display, not just in those fight sequences, but like when he has to do the rowing machine by himself all day. Like these are moments where like Scott is conveying through not a lot of dialogue. You're right for Lucius, for Hanno, that like he is dogged in his beliefs. He is dogged in his pursuits. That he's not one to give up easily, if at all, on his goals. And I think that comes across. That intensity is inherent to the characterization and in the performance that Mescal is giving. So I just can't, in good faith, like let those comments sort of slide by about like trying to discount his performance here.
Yeah.
Many people though are saying that he is outshone, and the movie really belongs to Denzel Washington as Macrinus. Who is the slave owner, gladiator recruiter guy in this. Sort of the is that Djimon Hounsou's role in the first film? I believe it is. I can't remember. Yeah, or maybe Djimon Hounsou is a fellow gladiator. I forget. I don't know. Sorry, it's been a couple years since I've seen Gladiator. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, Denzel's on fire in this movie. What can you really say? He is batting 300 here.
Yeah, he is the star of the show, not only in terms of, I think, by far my favorite performance in the film. I think everyone else is good, but I think that he commands a scene unlike any other. But I also think that he is the reason why, on a narrative level, this movie is not like the first one and is very intriguing to me. The way in which his goals and aspirations and political influence ebb and flow over the course of this film is what kept me locked to my seat. I'm like, okay, good fight sequence, okay, whatever. Give me back to the Senate room where he's gonna do some weird shit and say tell someone that they that he owns their shit and like make a bet, and I'm like, this is just such a fascinating guy that was a gladiator himself, that worked his way out of that is climbing to power and has all these connections and is utilizing them at every turn. I'm like, that's a fascinating character. And Denzel Washington just saunters into the scene, clasps his hands, and whispers in someone's ear, and shit just goes haywire. And I'm like, that is a phenomenal character to write for this. And he always keeps the scenes on their toes and everyone else on their toes in the film. And I just loved him. And I think that he's the reason why this film to me feels like more than just a stock standard sword and sandals Roman type movie, because I haven't necessarily seen a character like that has this like this political worming in this context. Everyone else around him, like, okay, it's war, it's gladiator stuff. It's straightforward, and I like that this movie again is focused. I appreciate that about it. But you add just enough spice, just enough intrigue with Denzel Washington's character and his performance being so wily and so interesting that it just takes up totally another notch. I mean, I think he's like a full. If I give this movie spoilers, I give this movie like an 8 out of 10. He's like a full like 1 point of that.
Yeah, he's a real wild card in this movie, and the reason why I think that people, the complaints that this like is just a rehash of the first film. I'm like, well, no, I think that Ridley Scott and the other writers, the other producers on this film have had like a real great idea for how to change up the progression of Rome, and how the empire has sort of dissolved, and how there exists this guy now who's going to completely flip the table of the empire and try to take complete control of it. And there's really no other better guy you can get in Hollywood for that role than Denzel Washington, which is why I was so happy that he's in this role. He's in this role, and we attribute so much of the time in this movie to him. Because what that really lends itself to is that a lot of Mescal's scenes are kept to like the action set pieces, which is something that we already talked about. His physicality is very good. He commands those and are much more large scale than they are in the first film. I mean, of course, in the first one, I guess the big thing would be like the tiger is kind of the big one, but we sort of start at that level and then go upwards in Gladiator II. We start with big CGI animal moment with the baboons or whatever.
No, we get a full ass battle sequence before that, and that is like it's done very well. It's super focused. It is, I think, one of the battles that feels the most like, okay, like I know what to expect here, but it's still awesome, and that I think is like, I guess the worst thing I can say about this movie. I'm like, that was awesome. That was sick as hell, and I like that the action spectacle set pieces in this movie are they're varied, and I think they're paced out very well, and I think that has to do with part of the narrative structure, which is the idea that after the siege, which is the first major sequence of the film, the twin emperors are celebrating the conquering of Numidia by hosting games in the Colosseum, and every day there's going to be a new major sequence in the movie, a spectacle, and they amp it up each time, and in between those, you get the characters sort of resting and talking to one another and figuring out a little bit more about each other's backstories, and then also just political intrigue in the background of what is Denzel doing, what is Pedro Pascal doing, what is Connie Nielsen doing, and that pace, I think, could be criticized as kind of cyclical of like, okay, the clock is just turning forward, but I really like there's an end point to this, and I feel the pressure of things like mounting forwards and the amping up. Each day is something new. It feels very regimented, and I like that.
It's the pressure cooker sentiment that really speaks to me. There is that like this thing is coming to a breaking point. Denzel is gaining more footing. The planned coup of the Roman emperors from Pedro Pascal and Connie Nielsen is coming to a head. It's only days out, or it's hours out, or whatever. Like, things feel like we are coming to a head, and then of course that is conveyed in the action sequences by going from like standard gladiatorial stuff to giant rhino fight to giant ocean, or two ships in a water-filled Colosseum thing, which is I've learned that something that Scott wanted to do in the first film, didn't have the budget for that in the first one, but I'm very glad he got to do that here, because that's incredible stuff.
Awesome.
But Mescal, I'll say it, he inexplicably is able to like master naval warfare, and he's
who
like,
the hell knows where that
exactly. I don't care. It's fucking awesome. He snapped all the oars, and they're doing the thing. They're lighting shit on fire, and he
and people are falling off, and they're getting eaten by sharks.
Exactly.
How to get sharks in there? I don't care. This is awesome.
Doesn't matter. It does not matter, because it is that spectacle that Scott is known for and is having a really fun time with here. I mean, one of the first moments that I was like Ridley Scott's back in the ship, man. He's back on the saddle. Is a moment that's actually very similar to something in Napoleon. Is one of the first like focus kills in the movie is a dude getting like the giant spear or whatever shoved through him.
Yeah,
and is like javelined to a wall. I was like, that's just like the horse getting like evaporated by a cannonball in Napoleon.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott's got that. He's like, somewhere early out of the gate, let them know that I'm not fucking around. Really fuck somebody up hard.
Yeah. Well, and let's just give Ridley Scott his flowers because, again, I like almost all of the movies of his that I've seen. I think he is a very impressive film director, and I think what compels me most about him is that he's able to make movies of incredible scope on incredible timescales. This movie, it was in production for a while, but it was also in production while he was making multiple other films. And I'm like, well, hold on. I just saw Napoleon 1 year ago. Wait, Gladiator 2 come out 1 year after that? What is this guy doing? How does he budget his time? I don't, like, if you had told me that he had stopped making movies for 5 years and just focused on this, I'm like, yeah. Like,
that makes sense.
I saw this movie. That was fucking crazy. How'd he do it?
Or if you're like, he stopped making movies for 5 years and did Napoleon or The Last Duel. I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. In the 2020s,
Exactly.
he's done 3.5 movies of this scope. Because, I mean, House of Gucci's not a small production either.
No.
And he's got more in the pipeline. I'm consistently impressed by him, but I think that this film feels the most coherent. It feels the most focused. I like all the movies of new movies of his I've seen, but I think it's just an impressive accomplishment, frankly. Because other movies of this scope are coming from directors like Scorsese or Villeneuve that are sitting down and focusing on this one thing for years. And obviously, it's not like he wasn't putting effort into this over the course of years, but he's had other things on his plate.
True. And obviously Ridley Scott is unlike other auteur directors in the fact that he has never written any of his movies. He serves as producer and director, obviously, but I think that he is someone who has visual idea of what he's going for, but leaves the story material to some other folks and can burn him, but often doesn't, because I think he's somebody who, when he's behind the chair, when he's committed to doing the project and working on it, he understands efficiency above all else, which is maybe funny to hear, because he is, well, other than like Zack Snyder, I guess, one of the most notable like director's cut guys in Hollywood right now, and making his 2.5, 3 hour movies, but they're never movies that feel like they drag. I mean, this movie never feels like it drags. Napoleon is light on its feet too. Like all of his epics have a sense of propulsion to them. That separate them from like the epics of the 60s and 70s, and he's for better or worse, if you're going to talk about the attention spans, he's making these epics for the modern audience, and he's making sure they keep moving, and always keep you entertained. So Tucker, is there anything else? Let's talk about like Pedro Pascal, Connie Nielsen, Joseph Quinn, and Thomas something. I forget what the other brother. Fred Heschinger. I don't know where I got Thomas from.
They're all great. They're all great. I think that out of those three, the standout to me is Joseph Quinn. I think that he really does bring a lot of energy. I think that it's interesting, and I think that might be where the strongest parallel can be of like, okay, like the villain is also kind of a crazy, pasty white boy. But I think that Joseph Quinn does a great job with it, especially as the film ramps up and he's given more dialogue. I think he delivers it very well. There was a good chunk of this movie where I'm like, are they even really going to be like a big force of this? Like, even though they're the emperors, maybe they're just like kind of a showpiece. But I do think in terms of performance, you get enough of them over the course of the film. Him and the other guy, the brother,
Fred Heschinger.
Fred Heschinger. I think they both do a really good job.
I think so too. I mean, their role is like oftentimes probably the most fun one for actors in these kind of movies. That's like, hey man, just be the most detestable like pompous asshole that you can, and really have fun with it. Just you give no fucks about anything that anyone is ever doing that's good for you. Really just be the most entitled guy. And then Fred Heshinger is the one that lasts a little longer, I guess. I mean, that sequence where he appoints his pet monkey as like his advisor, and then he's like, "All right, well, I'm gonna go to the Coliseum. See you guys later." And then Denzel comes out and he's got Joseph Quinn's head in a bag, and he's like, "Hey, listen, man, I can take control of this shit. If you want order, I need power." Like, I think a lot of the best scenes in the movie belong to Denzel. That moment. And I guess it's more of a shared thing where I love the final sword fight between him and Paul Mescal.
Great stuff.
When they go into the river and he hits him and he slices his arm and then he cuts his stomach open and then Mescal gets to give that final speech. Is like, listen, war sucks. Like, let's just fucking settle down here. There's an idea that Rome could be for everybody. Let's like try to find that through line here instead of scrambling to be the most powerful man in the world.
I think that thematically this movie does interesting things. I think that it's very satisfying that it ends in like a things have changed significantly kind of a way. I was realizing this as the camera was like zooming out and Paul Mescal was like standing on a river with two armies on either side. I'm like, all the other plot relevant characters fucking died in this movie. Every single one. It's impressive how gory this movie is, and how much it feels like the status quo changes. And you're like, man, where does Rome go from here? Like, both the emperors are dead. Denzel Washington, who was like, I mean, he was first in command for a certain time of this movie. He's dead. Connie Nielsen is dead. Pedro Pascal is dead. I'm like, Jesus Christ. What is going to happen? But I think that also means the movie is never... I never knew what to expect next, because there is the sense of stakes to it. And you can say, like, oh, a lot of characters die in a lot of movies. I'm like, all the characters die in this movie, basically, which is crazy. I do think that the one who gets the shortest end of the stick is Pedro Pascal. He is underutilized in this movie. The characters are pretty simple in this movie. They're pretty straightforward. But his straightforward thing is that he's like a very good general, but he's not like, his heart isn't necessarily in it. He wants to sort of get out of the game. And that's a fine character archetype. But I was waiting for more political intrigue, more history of what him and Connie Nielsen's relationship was like. But he kind of disappears for like a solid chunk of like the second act of the movie. I'm like, oh, I was ready for him to like be showing up to these shady underground meetings with the Senate and like commanding people, and then not really. And then we cut to the sequence of him like going to break out Paul Mescal. Their names are kind of similar, actually. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That is what he's doing right now. Like, oh well, and then he basically dies like quickly after that. So I think
he
it's
gets
unfortunate.
porcupined.
He does. No, Tanner, you remember the scene from the Avengers where all the Chitauri are shooting the Hulk, and he's like in that cloud of dust, and they're all pew pew pew. They're like keeping him down. I'm like, hey. It's kind of like that, but arrows. I don't know, man.
Connie Nielsen also gets arrowed. I love Denzel Washington. He's like, give me that bow and arrow. He's like, I'll fucking kill her. At least part of my plan is going to go through here. Really like this movie. Really like the final shot, that purple sky with Paul Mescal, and like he's touching the dirt, and he has his talk to me goose moment. He says, talk to me, Maximus or whatever.
Sure.
I like that. I like that final shot a lot. Tucker, I'm going to go 8.7 out of 10.
I'll go 8.3 out of 10.
Right on.
I like the movie a lot. The goat is back. He never left, actually.
He's never leaving.
That's a secret.
He will live forever.
And I'll be there day one, wherever you do next, Ridley Scott. Thanks for watching, everyone. All right. Wicked mode, Gladiator mode. Gladiator mode achieved. This shit's serious. This is Rome.
This shit's about the Roman Empire.
What do you do when you're there? I couldn't tell you.
Yeesh. Beats me. If only there was someone I could, like, model my behavior off of.